I'll be there in one. Dear friends, I'm having some difficulties this afternoon with the Wi-Fi. So I only am hoping that it will stop acting up and start to be good for the next hour and a half. For the purpose of this live stream broadcast from the Dhammadharini monastery in California, sponsored by the Buddhist Insights. Dear friends, if anybody is able to hear me or not able to hear me, they could put a note in the chat because as I say, the Wi-Fi is acting strange. Very good, thank you. Today I'm speaking to you from our small ancestors' altar. We have the relics and ashes of some of our mentors and teachers who've passed away over the past 15 years, as well as photographs of those some teachers who have been very important mentors to us. At Dhammadharini, November is what we call Death Awareness Month. So we're doing the charnel ground meditation on a daily basis. And we are chanting the memorial chanting and what's called Pamsukula chanting, which is a very concise summary of categories of the Dhamma as they were represented, especially in Abhidhamma, which is very traditional to chant at a funeral service. I've just came a few minutes ago from visiting a friend of ours who is close to death. My friend was a beautiful Dhamma practitioner and a Dhamma teacher in her own way, although she didn't have widespread fame beyond our local community here in Sonoma County, California. In sitting with Diane, I have been reflecting because Diane is interested in Nibbana, awakening, giving up any craving at all, any type of adherence, anything that would keep her continuing on in this round of rebirth. And instead, with that aspiration for Nibbana, for coming to a completion, that state of freedom, which is free from any craving or any clinging whatsoever. We were looking at the sutta called Girimananda Sutta, which is in the Book of Tens of the Numerical Discourses. It's number 60, Sutta number 60 in the Book of Tens, in the Anguttara Nikaya, or the Numerical Discourses. This sutta is extremely popular in Sri Lanka as a kind of a blessing sutta for people who are ill, because in the frame story, this monk, Girimananda, who doesn't appear in any other sutta, so very little is known about him, he's ill, grievously ill, and Ananda visits him and says, friend, are you getting better? He says, no, I'm not getting better. I'm getting worse. Then Ananda goes to the Buddha and requests if the Buddha would go and offer a teaching to Ananda for his comfort and benefit. And then the Buddha says, well, if you would teach Girimananda these 10 perceptions, that would be for his benefit. And so then Ananda goes and teaches him the 10 perceptions. And Girimananda is miraculously cured from his illness. So in this way, faithful Buddhists might want to have that sutta chanted while they're very ill, because they're hoping for a miraculous cure to be restored to physical health. But other Buddhists notice that their 10 reflections given are very deep topics for contemplation, and it's almost like a whole course of meditation given in brief in this one sutta. And then another thing that people appreciate about this sutta is that the closing portion of the Anapanasati Sutta, which is talking about the Dhamma themes to be reflected, those Dhamma themes are developed and explained in Girimananda. But now, when I was sitting with Diane, with my friend, it occurred to me that if I thought that my death was right around the corner, and my death is coming, and my death is coming very quickly, then my entire attitude and way of practicing with this sutta would be completely different. And indeed, this sutta seems like a wonderful practice for a person who's on their deathbed, or for a person who's developing the maranasati, the mindfulness of death, who's trying to thoroughly understand and bring into their hearts that the reality of what death really is, and to get rid of the delusion about eternal life, or any craving for life, or any clinging to want to stay alive, to want to make our life last longer, through this method of this contemplation of death. So this is what I'm going to tell you about a little bit later in this presentation today. But before I go into it, with this brief preamble, I'd like to invite us to sit in meditation for about, say, 30 minutes. So let's get ready for meditation. Please bring your body to an upright and stable, balanced posture, whether sitting in a chair or cross-legged on the cushion, making the body as comfortable as possible so that you can keep stillness in the body. With enough energy to stay awake and not fall into drowsiness. Just being aware of the physical body, feeling the weight of the body pressing on the chair or the cushion, feeling our connection with the weight and the gravity, like the earth element inside the body is connected to the earth element outside the floor or the ground. And making a determination or a decision that whatever excitement, worry, agitation, or thinking that I brought into this room from earlier today, I'm willing to let that go and put that all to the side. And any planning or hopes or worries about tomorrow, I also am letting that go and putting that to the side, so that just for this hour, I would like to stay in the present moment, being aware of whatever arises to my consciousness in the here and now. And even beyond giving up those trivial worries for the space of 30 minutes of a meditation sit, if you imagined that you are on the deathbed, going to die at any time. Think of letting them go, absolutely. Just not being concerned. And having let go of worries and agitation with a bright and clear mind. It may be the breath can be perceived, noticing the rise and fall of the breath, breathing in, breathing out. It's the simplest object, just noticing exactly as it is, breathing in and breathing out. If any other thought or sensation comes along, one can gently let those other impressions stay in the background, stay in the sideline, keeping the main object or focus, the direction, the spotlight of awareness on the rise and fall of the breath. aware of the ending of each breath, the end of the in-breath, the end of the out-breath. Each breath, when it ends, is gone forever. How the breath touches this living, breathing body. The continuous movement of the body with the breath. The movement of air. The rise and fall of the chest or the belly. And the subtle energy all over the body as the oxygenated blood from the breath is flowing through the entire body. Feeling the motion of breath where it's clear, like at the chest, and where it's more subtle, like the shoulders, and even more subtle, like the hands. Letting the sensation of breath pervade the whole body, like the whole body is breathing. And if the mind is well away from hindrances or thinking, experiencing the fading away of all the negativities. Experiencing this is peaceful, this is sublime, the fading away of all conditions, the cutting off of craving. And if just for this moment the negativities have disappeared, aware of their cessation, breathing in, aware of cessation, breathing out, aware of cessation. How peaceful, how sublime, the stilling of all conditions, letting go of attachments, end of craving, cessation. But if some worldly thought or extraneous reaction comes along into the mind. Don't pick it up. Don't grasp it. Remember, if you were close to death, you would not pick that up. You're not interested anymore. You only want to stay in that peaceful state, aware of each breath, right up to the last breath, fully aware, just as it is. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namasami. So, dear friends, I'm inviting you to consider these 10 perceptions in the Girimananda Sutta and how you would take them quite differently if you knew that death was coming. The 10 are impermanence, not self, unattractiveness, danger, giving up, fading away, cessation, dissatisfaction with the whole world, the impermanence of all conditions, and mindfulness of breathing. That's anicca sanya, anicca impermanence, anatta sanya, non-self, asubha sanya, the impurity or unattractiveness of the body, adinava sanya, the danger, pahana sana, giving up, viraga sanya, fading away, nirodha sangha, cessation, sabbaloke anabhirata sanya, renouncing the whole world. And then sabba sankharesu anicca sanya, not wishing for anything anything of the conditioned world. And then anapanasati. So those first three contemplations are ones that you might be familiar with because they're very universal. So anicca sanya is usually very often spoken of as it is here in terms of the 5 aggregates, which are the things that one can identify to and cling to, such as this body, my feelings, my perceptions, my intentions, or my decisions, my volitions, and then last of all, my sense consciousness. And then, so when we were young and healthy and strong, we use this to remember, like not to be proud, not to be so deluded as like to assume that this fitness of all the parts that were working together as parts of our personality, not to assume that it was going to go on forever. When we know that death is coming, then all the more so, one can almost naturally see how these factors are, or it's like a committee, or it's a school of fish or something that is appears to be something, but really it's coming apart. And so that if we are clinging to the personality view of finding a self in any of these things, then we are on the way to be reborn. We're on the way to be taking a kind of a heavenly existence if we're very good and we're doing good wholesome comments all the time. Or perhaps if we are not able to control our impulses and we're doing bad things, then we may even today be in something sort of like a hell realm, and then have the sense about that's where we are heading. And so, like, it's as long as those factors of the five aggregates seem to be a whole self, then it also seems to be a permanent thing, which has got that momentum going forward, which we cling to. And whatever we cling to, something that is not ours and impermanent, we will inevitably be disappointed, and that's where dukkha comes to. So it may have been a bit of an effort for this theoretical young, healthy person who's got everything going for them, as opposed to somebody who knows that death is coming and they can see how it's falling apart. They see how it's falling apart. That contemplation of impermanence is the gateway for everything else. Then the next contemplation, anatta sanya, the contemplation of non-self. Elsewhere in the suttas, we often go from impermanence to non-self, say, well, because it's impermanent, then how could it be a self? In this particular sutta, they are suggesting with the eye, the visual object and the contact with the eye, looking to see that it's not a self, it's not me, not mine. And then with each one of the senses, including the mind, being disengaged from imposing a self view or any clinging to self on the sense contacts. When we are close to dying, the senses start to kind of fade away and become less strong, to become more like a cloudy. If a person was experiencing a lot of pain during their illness, it could happen that when they become close to death, death itself is like a sedative, and then the pain disappears. You're insulated from feeling that pain anymore. Or it could be that with the aging of the body, or with coming close to death, that the seeing fades away, and you don't hear clearly anymore. Or that hearing fades away, you don't hear clearly anymore. And so each one of these senses, you see the sense faculties are like slipping away. It's like something that's maybe a leaf in the river and it's just being swept away. And part of the danger of illness or being close to death is a person could fall into grief and agitation and be upset and distressed and depressed because their eyesight is failing, their hearing is failing, their touch sensitivity is failing, and so if the mind is not prepared for that, they could feel agitation and grief about it. But then, if the mind is prepared, then we can say, "Oh, the Blessed One is right. It's not self." And then we feel at peace with that, with just allowing the evolution of what's happening to the body, what's happening to the senses. The one about the Asubha practice, that's the one where you're looking at the different organs of the body, like starting head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, and then going inside to the muscles, the tissues, the bones, the bone marrow, and so forth, and then into the different organs of the body, and then the different liquids in the body, like blood, pus, sweat, grease, urine, and so forth. And when that hypothetical young and perfect person with their healthy body was doing this contemplation, it might be that perhaps even they were subjected to, or they had a tendency to, a lot of sensual delight and joy in the beauty of the human body, even like a sexual or sensual desire connected to the beauty of the human body. And then this teaching becomes a sort of like a correction for that, saying, well, you could be falling in love with somebody, but, are you in love with the urine? Are you in love with the grease? Are you in love with the pus? Are you in love with the blood? Are you in love with the, different contents of the stomach of that individual? And so it's a kind of a correction for becoming dispassionate in that sense. When we are close to death, this foulness, this impurity is naturally so much more prominent, right? Because the body's not functioning properly anymore. And so the way, the body sort of has a natural way of purifying itself as the food is digested and the different, toxins that are coming out of the flesh or the different parts of the body are being carried away and processed through the kidneys or something, and then put out as urine and feces. And so for a healthy person, there are impurities in the body, but the body is purifying itself. And for someone who's dying, it stopped working. And so then these impurities are like, building up. And then here it's a different kind of a contemplation. It's, instead of trying to convince ourselves about the foulness of the human body, instead our challenge is to be at peace, to be calm, to practice this compassionate, full acceptance. Well, there goes my body. It's just a body. It's doing what bodies do, and having that full acceptance is coming to a way of having like a full understanding of what a body really is, how a body really works, the lifespan of a body, what happens when a body comes to the end of its lifespan. And with that, there is peace. The perception of the danger, the adinava, usually we think of danger in terms of the dangers connected with the moral danger of greed and hatred and so forth, or else if you are taking delight in something that's not wholesome, then there's the dangers that delightful thing is impermanent, and so it won't really satisfy you in the end. But in this sutta, what they give for the dangers is this long list of diseases. It's they give disease of the eye, inner ear, nose, tongue, body, head, outer ear, mouth, teeth, and lips, cough, asthma, catarrh, inflammation, fever, stomachache, fainting, dysentery, gastric pain, cholera, leprosy, boils, eczema, tuberculosis, epilepsy, herpes, itch, scab, smallpox, scabies, hemorrhage, diabetes, piles, pimples, ulcers, and so on like that. So it's almost funny, but there's a very high probability, unless we were even if we were died by means of an accidental injury, if we were to get hit by a car or something like that, and we die instantly before we have a chance to experience all these terminal lingering illnesses. Nevertheless, we would experience that very quickly in that moment. And here again, the opportunity or the invitation is to condition the mind to be prepared, not to be delusional about what the body really is, and to have that sense of calmness. So with a kind of a calmness and openness and compassion, just to be acknowledging that's how it is. We have these dangers. When we took the birth as a human being, we got the kind of existence that was subjected to having these kind of conditions. And so these first four contemplations are in a way like the related to the full understanding of dukkha. And when we really understand dukkha and the cause of dukkha, which is craving, then we come to the next perception, which is given here. It says it's giving up, or pahana. And the sutta is so stern here. It's so really strong. The pahana sanya, the perception of giving up, is if a thought of greed or cruelty arises, you don't tolerate it for a minute. Instead, you cut it down, destroy it, get rid of it, make it be completely demolished. And that kind of urgency is the urgency that I will have if I know that I'm going to die. And then I will be sensibly afraid. I don't want to die while the mind is involved in hatred or sensual greed. That would be really bad for me. And so then for my own protection, for my safety, I don't want to nourish or just go along with those negativities, even for a moment. I want to, as soon as I know how, I want to abandon them. And then having done that, then they could come to the next two contemplations here, which are in a way related to samadhi or to meditation. These are very deep meditations. In fact, Bhikkhu Nyanananda in the Nibbana sermons, he uses this one as the refrain of each one of the Nibbana sermons. It goes, one goes to the wilderness or the root of a tree or to an empty hut. That means going to the place for meditation. And then reflecting, this is peaceful. This is sublime. That is the stilling of all activities. Or you could say the stilling of all conditioned activities. The letting go of all attachments, the ending of craving, fading away, and nibbana. So it comes to getting a deeper understanding of what this sabba sankhara means in this context. The translator I'm looking at here has translated as activities. Sankhara could be like volitional formations or intentions that have some kind of a karmic valence to them. That's either a wholesome or unwholesome karmically, or it could, in a very broad sense, refer to the way that the mind is continuously fabricating these fabrications, like we're fabricating this reality, and then we're trapped in the reality which we have fabricated. And this is how the life on the turning the wheel of samsara goes around and around. So first, these sankharas become still, and then attachment is upadhi, letting go of all attachments. It's even in the Pali, it's even a little stronger than letting go. It's like turning away from all attachments. And then the ending of craving, it's not just that craving like faded away into the sunset. Instead, it's tanha kaya, which means it's like the destruction. Then this fading away is the term for viraga, which is can be translated as dispassion. It can mean that emotional reactivity fades away, or it could mean that just that the taints or the negative tendencies fade away. They fade away the way that if you put a drop of dye into a pond, the dye gradually disperses itself and spreads out and spreads out and spreads out until you can't see it anymore because it's become so diluted. That's the fading away. Or it could mean the fading away of the identification as a self, as it becomes sort of dispersed like that. And then the next contemplation is almost exactly the same language. It's the stilling of all activities, letting go of attachments, the ending of craving. And then instead of saying fading away, it says cessation. So whatever it is that was putting energy into feeding our life process in a way that's conducive to building up karma and buying a ticket for another life in this round of samsara, that energetic pattern has stopped. That's what that cessation is talking about. And then the next two are, it's what's called relinquishment. And when I was young and healthy, this order of things used to confuse me because I thought, well, you would relinquish something first, and then after you relinquish it, you would experience the fading away and the cessation, right? But in this case, it's specifically talking about something that could be experienced within samadhi or within deep meditation. You could have this experience if you're cultivating this contemplation. And then upon emerging from samadhi, what do you encounter? You encounter the world. And then there's the perception of dissatisfaction with the whole world. So when you come out of your shell or come out of being withdrawn in meditation and have to contact with people, contact with things, contact with duties, have to contact with anything in the world, even having contact with your memories, having contact with your plans and hopes, all of those things that are of the world, you have lost interest in them, and so you don't grasp them, you're not attracted, you don't become mentally fixated, there's no insistence, there's no more underlying tendencies. So it's like after experiencing this release while in a state of meditation, then emerging from meditation, there's this opportunity for this much more complete letting go of any kind of mental tendency that is keeping us attached and grasping to things of the world. And then the last one is this anicca sanya. This is controversial because anicca without the H means impermanence, so it's a perception of impermanence. And then anicca with the H added is no icha. Icha is wishing. So I prefer to think of this as not wishing, the perception of not wishing. And this is with respect to all the conditions in the world. So not being wishlessness, having no wishes. I don't want to be with the gods in heaven. I don't want to be getting away from the problems that I have. I'm not exerting any preferences whatsoever about things that are conditioned. And so this is a very refined, it's really a description of awakening. And then having done all of this work, the final contemplation is the mindfulness of breathing, and it goes through exactly the same as 16, the contemplations, the 4 groups of 4 that are in several other sutras about the mindfulness of breathing. And so my idea for this is that having done the work, when I'm close to death, it will be very much to my benefit if I've developed and cultivated the anapanasati. So it's a very natural, normal, easy, the particular meditation practice that's where the mind can go to naturally, and where even if my mental faculties are not very strong, if I'm on my deathbed, even if I'm demented, even if I'm distracted by having a lot of physical pain, or even if I'm caught in a momentary crisis of having been in an accidental injury or having been shot or something like that, that no matter what the circumstances or conditions, if I'm so well trained in this anapanasati, if I can just go there and let that be the last thing that I'm doing as the anapanasati, the breath meditation, and let me be aware of the last breath. And if I'm not in a state of so-called consciousness where I'm able to, keep my eyes open and respond to people talking to me or something like that, even if the mind has withdrawn into some kind of unconscious state, perhaps I nevertheless would be able to, in whatever state I'm in, be able to have a perception of the breath. If that perception is what I have been making the time and putting in the effort and the practice and the cushion hours, developing breath meditation for its benefit in the here and now, and also as a kind of a prudent investment in my future with the idea that I'm preparing myself for my deathbed. And when I come to my deathbed, let me be able to do this practice, this meditation. So simple, just breathing in, just breathing out. And as I'm doing that, it has the experience of the bodily aspect, the feeling aspect, the mental aspect, and then in the Dhamma aspect, it's breathing in and out, experiencing impermanence, experiencing the fading away, experiencing the cessation, and experiencing the letting go. And so these qualities, these perceptions, impermanence, fading away, cessation, and letting go, those are exactly the themes that have been developed in a more elaborated, complete, and understandable way in this Girimananda Sutta. So that if I've worked with that particular sutta and really reflected, contemplated, and well integrated in my understanding what these four dhammas are really about, then I would have a chance that those dhammas would be at the forefront of my mind when I come to the last breath. So there's 15 minutes left in this session, and I would be very happy to see any comments. So I'm going to look now on the screen and see if there's some comments. I appreciate everybody giving so many good wishes and thumbs up and hearts and hands and Anjali. So welcome and thank you. I appreciate all that. Sudha is saying, in terms of saying anatta and anicca and dukkha, how can this be understood in terms of seeking refuge in the Buddha? Is it to be understood that seeking refuge in the Buddha is the same as seeing anicca, anatta, anicca, dukkha, anatta, or at least trying to be aware of these? There's an expression that it's part of the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, but it's sort of a chant all by itself. And when they say, Dhamma nu Dhamma patipatiya Buddhang pujami, Dhamma nu Dhamma patipatiya Dhammang pujami, Dhamma nu Dhamma patipatiya Sanghang pujami. And what this means is that by practicing the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma, I venerate the Buddha, I venerate the Dhamma, and I venerate the Sangha. So as I understand, that means making the effort to practice the entire path of training, which was offered to us by the Buddha, that was realized by him, and then explained to us, not picking and choosing, just taking a little here, a little there, but trying to practice thoroughly, completely, as well as we can understand, undertaking the teaching as an entirety, which is a path of development and cultivation leading to Nibbana. And then certainly the three perceptions of anicca, anatta, and dukkha were developed by the Buddha in his very first sermons that he gave to the monks, and is definitely an aspect of, you could say, right view, which is the very launching point for our path of cultivation. So we can make the effort to take in these concepts and to accept these concepts because of the veneration and respect that we have for the Triple Gem. Here's a message from Kim in Maine. I was just listening to Ajahn Brahmali talking about death meditation. So interesting to hear your thoughts within minutes. Yes, what a coincidence. Ajahn Brahmali is a wonderful Dhamma teacher. And we especially appreciate that he and Ajahn Brahm and the associates there are interested in adhering to, like trying to understand what the Buddha said and what the Buddha meant as it's handed down to us in the early teachings, and not interested in speculating about random ideas that we may have that are wandering away from what the Buddha taught and what the Buddha meant. So using all the best intelligence we have to try to listen carefully and to take on board what's available to us in the suttas, and then practicing with that in a faithful way. When people give guided meditations on the breath, the anapanasati, it seems like 80% of the time they are focusing on the body part, the first four contemplations, and it's relatively a few teachers find the way to teach the entire package of the breath meditation that really integrates up to these sublime insights that are given in the last group of four reflections of that sutta. I would say that Venerable Analayo's retreat on breath meditation and his book on anapanasati is a really excellent source and a resource that does take the whole package of that meditation and gives a very, a balanced and a complete presentation of it. In this case, because I was particularly interested, like the point or the main takeaway theme that I wanted you to take was about these four great insights in the last chatrat of anapanasati. Then I tried to jump you ahead to introducing those themes, or opening those possibilities for that awareness to come to you in the little guided meditation earlier on in this session, even though you might have had a busy day with your life, and then just coming and turning into a computer, which it already is It's not like totally relaxing to be connected to a computer. And then to have a merely 30 minutes of meditation is perhaps not possible. But then on the other hand, if you practice with this meditation, and if you practice the whole package, up to and including those profound insights, then it could only take a second for you to go to the end of that sutta, like when you have been shot or hit by a truck and your life essence is leaving you. Even just in that moment, if you practice, then you will be able to go to that quickly in an instant. Here's 2 more comments. I have lived with life-altering pain and illness for over 40 years. When I contemplate that death is near, I feel a dropping of the shoulders and feel my body relaxing. Yes, indeed. And if you are wise and took the opportunity with the pain and illness being sort of something that confronts you, that you have to work with it. And then if you have an ability not to just be traumatized and injured by pain and illness, but instead to work through it to the level of wisdom, then those painful experiences can be a form of spiritual power, a source of great spiritual power and spiritual authority. And can definitely be the opportunity to practice more deeply than somebody who didn't experience such problems or such challenges. This speaker goes on, then I feel concern and compassion for my 3 dogs, wondering who will care for them. Okay, well, compassion for pets, yes. We hope that the other living beings will be able to intuitively know that we are kind and that we are good, that we are good to them, we are not cruel to them. And having that experience of goodness could be like a factor that makes it possible for an animal to come to a better rebirth in a state where they could access a more like a higher levels of wisdom. In the chanting about may those with 2 legs not hurt me, may those with 4 legs not hurt me, and so on. And then it says, may those with 2 legs know my love, may those with 4 legs know my love, may those with many legs know my love, and so on like that. And I think about all of the ways that humans are so inconsiderate and mean towards animals. And so if an animal sees a human, they might just run away in terror because they expect death and destruction at the hands of humans. That's what they've encountered, is that a human is the cause of death and not a place to experience kindness. So definitely making the whatever practical efforts one can to have a future loving home for one's pets is one of the things one can try to do, especially if you have time to think about it in advance. You know, if you know you're going to die, it's not like you were hit with a bus. You had time to make the effort to try to make those arrangements. And while you were doing that, you're very clear about your intention Rick is saying the intention is compassion. So having that compassion and letting that compassion be really like in front, so that then your pets will know that. And even even more powerful than how long they live or what kind of dog food they get is that they know that they have experienced compassion. So I think we've come to the end of our time. I would invite you to join me in giving respect to the Triple Gem by bowing to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. Thank you, everybody, for your patient listening.